I like it. I like the experiment you're doing. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we tried different stuff. We tried to do it like Howard Stern style in the VO booth, and it was like, you know, I could do any podcast like that. And then I was like, all right, well, let's go back on the stage. We'll just have nobody there. It's got its ups and downs.
Well, it's like I guess one thing I don't know that anyone. I'm just trying to think of a late night show or a show in this format with no audience. Where it's just this, I'd
have to go back to the Alan Havey show, late night, basic cable.
That's what it was.
Yeah, Nick Bakay as his Andy Richter, and it was kind of like quiet. And,
wasn't there an audience of one or something like that?
Yeah, I think there was like. I mean, you can always like hear a couple people chuckling here and there.
It reminds me of like local TV or Joe Bob Briggs, like Monster Vision, where it was obvious it was just one guy in a studio like this with maybe 3 people.
Yeah,
laughing behind the camera.
Yeah,
a guy tweeted at me, and he was like, and it's like several tweets chained together, and he's like, I know you think it's easier to. I can't remember what his presuppositions were, but he was like I urge you to listen to the early episodes. I think you'll find that they're better. Like he was like really like breaking it to me that the podcast is worse when there's no fucking audience. So it's like responding to him going like, what is your point? Like, what do you think is at stake here? I don't understand.
Well, I think he's probably saying like, it's not that the podcast is worse. It's like if you do a format that's generally made for an audience, minus the audience, it produces, and then you add to it.
No, I didn't. No, this guy was. I can guarantee you, this guy was basically. He was like he wanted the audience back and thought that. Even though he said he'd just finished listening to all of the episodes, so I don't know how you get through that without the information that this isn't really a choice. Like so, to like weigh in and go. I don't know. It's kind of like you're out in the middle of nowhere and like. Your truck has got one tire in the ditch and people are like trying to get a piece of wood under the tire, but then some other people are like, well, maybe if we sing and dance, like maybe who says this wasn't our destination, and like as long as the truck's not working and all this stuff, it's just to have one guy there going like I think if you really think about it, pound for pound, what we're going through right now is actually worse than what was happening yesterday. I was like, thanks, Miles.
No shit, right? No shit, man.
His name was Miles?
It was to me.
That's a great name for somebody commenting on a truck that stopped.
Miles to go.
Miles Togo.
Miles to go. Togo.
But yeah, we will soon be back in front of an audience. But then, be careful what you wish for, because I think that, there's going to come a point, that's going to be like a return threshold, and then, that's how stories end. We just go, okay, we did it, we did this, then we did that, then we did this, and then we did it like this, yay! And it's going to be like, I'm 45, like
what?
What are we?
You're 45?
Yeah. I'm saying like there may come a day when the appropriate thing for me to do for my own happiness and to evolve has not only nothing to do with a public life, but also in fact maybe actually be counter to a public life. You know what I mean? Like,
do you think you're resisting something? Do you feel resistant?
In what? Can you get more specific?
Just like like when you're in a situation, and you realize you don't want to be in that situation. It could be in general. Like, do you think you find yourself feeling like resisting what's happening more often than not?
I find myself trying to find my bliss in situations that, by definition, and that's a very appropriate phrase, by definition, because everything by definition like kind of excludes, it starts to run counter to bliss following. So like, let's say, so you do something fun and then you say, let's do something fun every week.
Yeah.
And then you got to strike that balance. You just do. Everybody does. Like, okay, we're going to have a book club. We're going to get together every Wednesday. And, you know, a big boy understands that sometimes if you're getting together every single Wednesday for your book club, yeah, there's going to be some Wednesdays when you're not the one who's so stoked about showing up on Wednesday. Yeah, you're kind of an asshole if you show up, therefore, on Wednesday with this, like, kill the book club vibe. Right. Because for all you know, everybody else on that particular Wednesday is, like, kind of in a good mood, and like actually the book club is there to carry them, you know. Yeah. And it's the nature of things. You schedule them, you make them regular, you decide to do them, and there's always going to be this like struggle to balance the let's always do this with oh, and by the way, let's always do whatever the fuck we feel like doing.
I mean, that thing that you are doing with this thing has always blown me away, because it is the regularity of it, the complexity of it, the getting here. Even now, doing it like this it's insane. Like when I do my podcast, I go into my studio, I get high, I've got synthesizers, and I just putter around in there until something like happens that I like, and it's very private. Like they were telling me that you felt good that you were able to do this minus an audience, and I was thinking like, holy shit, man. I mean, like doing it with an audience is madness. It's madness. It's such a, when I go on tour with my podcast, that's like it's heavy for me. Like it's a huge, it feels like big, and like any kind of time I do a live show, it feels like really just very intense, and less like what it is when I record it, which is just a day of just allowing whatever happens to happen. So I can understand you starting to really feel weird about what you've been doing. It makes sense to me. I hope I don't seem like I'm judging the way that you're feeling, because I get it, man. I get it. I think it's just very hyper pressurized what you've been doing. A weekly live show in front of a really smart audience, some of whom are really fucking mean.
And the challenge is it's a high pressure thing to decide that you're going to do something every week, and then the fun, worthwhile pressure is, or the fun, worthwhile activity is.
It was one squeak. I moved. I can't move.
I think that was an accident.
It was. I moved. My foot was falling asleep, and I put it on the floor.
The fun, worthwhile activity is trying to figure out how to take something that you've determined.
He looked at me like I spit in his drink,
and then also like continue to be like, okay, well then, and on top of that, then how is it always different and challenging and fun, or whatever that word is, chaotic or something, you know, like. I think that a nice death that's occurred with this venue is the death of my idea that it was going to ever grow into into something that had more structure. You know, I thought like maybe that would grow. Like it's like you put up a trellis and then like a crazy chaotic thing that just grows by nature uses the trellis. So the combination of the out of the moment like backbreaking carpentry plus the it's okay that everything's just going to grow all over this. That's my fantasy of doing things, you know, that aren't for money. Like, you go like, oh wow, it's cool that we grew that thing into this thing. It's like Channel 101 like grew into this thing, and like it wasn't. It was neither based on us not giving a shit, nor was it based on us giving too much of a shit. It was just sort of like, just grew.
Well, this thing's still growing, just not growing the way you thought it would.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's an important part of its growth. There was a point in Channel 101's history when Schraub and I were like, are we going to keep being the ones with our thumb on the switch? Because the thing started this idea that the audience is always in charge, and then we kind of tweaked the system to allow for us to not even be involved, and that was an important thing. Like likewise, the growth of this show, I think this is an interesting chapter, because it's like I was like, let's move it to Starburns, and then let's like for the subscribers we could have like video segments and we could edit. You know, I just had like these ambitions. I never made the mistake of thinking, oh, I'm going to work really hard on the show, right. But I always thought I made the mistake of thinking, oh, we'll move in and we'll set up a foundation and then shit will grow on top of that. Like everyone will keep wanting to add to it and it'll like grow into this thing. And then the fucking election happened. And then it just like nobody. It's just like we all across the entire country, like the music changed for everybody. It didn't matter what dance move you were about to do, and what plans you had with other people. It just like all of it, it was just like fucking everything shifted. And then the smart creative people are like, okay, how do we adapt to this? But there's no question that it was just like it kind of just disrupted everything. You
feel like this is related to the election?
Yes.
This is connected to the political climate of the United States.
I don't know if it's connected to the political climate, but it's definitely connected to the event of like the election and its like social repercussions and things. Yes.